Attacked by an angry Muslim man outside a mosque, Jewish prospective parliamentary candidate Rabbi Arnie Saunders was forced to flee.
In front of all of these Muslim people that you've come for to engage, condemn the IDF. Don't come to the house of Allah and try to engage with us when we know when you're in your own places with your own people, you're saying is good. We don't want to engage with you people. And then you come here and you smile like a snake.
I'm Jonathan Sacerdoti. Rabbi Saunders, thank you for joining me. Firstly, what happened that we saw in that video of you outside the mosque, in your own words?
So before, I'd been invited by the president of the mosque, who was in the video, to sit outside the mosque it was a week last Friday, the 21st of June, whatever the date was. And it was part of the election campaign that he invited every candidate, and there's 9 of us in Bury South, to meet and greet, if you like, his worshippers as they come in and come out for Friday prayers.
And I ought to say that you're running for the Conservative Party in Bury South.
Correct. I'm the Conservative candidate at Bury South. I'm actually a local councillor on Salford City Council for the Curzon and Broughton Park ward, which now, due to boundary changes at this election, is becoming part of the Bury South parliamentary constituency. The Bury South parliamentary constituency is actually one of the largest Jewish constituencies, if I can use that phrase, in the country. I believe it's certainly the largest outside the London conurbation, apart from Finchley, Golders Green and the Hartsmere, etc.
And so what we saw in that video is that you were sitting there outside the mosque, presumably on that invitation.
Correct.
And there's one man who's filming you and shouting at you quite aggressively, "Leave, we don't want you here, you're a snake," and all sorts of abuse relating to the war going on at the moment in Gaza.
Absolutely. I mean, the context of that is, as I said, I was invited genuinely by the mosque, by the elders of the mosque, the president, who, by the way, the previous night had attended at the invitation of the Jewish Rep Council, literally 100 yards up the road, probably less, at the Maccabi Centre. There was the Jewish hustings, where there was myself, Christian Wayford, the Labour candidate, who has been the MP, and the Lib Dem candidate, and they were treated with great courtesy. It was a beautiful, hot day, which is unusual for Manchester. It was a really hot day, so I was quite happy to sit outside. There was no point going inside the mosque, because I still won't be able to speak to anyone. And I was there probably about an hour and a quarter already, meeting and greeting people. Until that moment, everybody was very courteous. 1 or 2 you could see walk past and clearly didn't want to engage with me. That's fine. 1 or 2 muttered a couple of things under their breath, which I couldn't quite hear what it was. But there'd been nothing to suggest that anything like this was going to happen. And then, when prayers finished, this fellow came up to me, and what you saw on the video is basically what happened. Only when I saw it again on the video did I realise how intimidating it was, because sometimes at the time you don't sort of take everything in. And then afterwards I left, as a lot of people urged me to do for the sake of, sort of peace, as it were. I had no trouble leaving at all. There was nobody attacked me or attacked my car or threw anything. So that was basically it.
Now, it did look very alarming watching it on the video, but also quite remarkable how calm you were. And you're obviously, a seasoned local politician and a rabbi. You're somebody that knows your community there. But this was, I was quite terrified watching it, that this sort of thing is happening. If you don't mind me saying so, you're in the elderly category, if I may put it that way. And it seemed that this younger man was quite aggressive towards you. It could potentially have turned violent, as far as I could see. Were you afraid at the moment? And if not, why not?
You're probably right. It could have turned aggressive. No, not aggressive, could have turned violent. It certainly was aggressive. You're right, I'm elderly. I'm 65. No bones about my age. I'm not that old, but I'm getting my pension in 2 months' time. But not as old as Donald Trump and Joe Biden. who are standing...
And a lot more cogent, might I say.
A lot more
So
cogent, yeah.
I didn't mean any offence by it.
No, I understand that. And I'd also have disabilities as well. You probably saw the stick in the in the clip. I'm probably going to have a hip operation sooner rather than later. I'm waiting to see a specialist. So I'm certainly vulnerable from that point of view. The answer to your question, and I don't want to sound a sort of hero, nor do I want to sound naive, I didn't get the sense that he was going to physically attack me. I think had he wanted to, he probably would have done so right at the beginning. And believe it or not, there were security people there. You saw them in their yellow high-vis vests. They weren't terribly useful, to be honest. They didn't, do very much. There was a professional security man, a Muslim gentleman in a suit, who I believe is called a close protection officer and works for celebrities. I won't mention names, but he seemed to disappear halfway through and he wasn't there. So
was he there for your close protection or someone else's?
He was hired. No, it wasn't mine. It was hired by the mosque to look after me particularly. Looking at the video again, and obviously I hadn't seen it for a few days till it was put on social media by the people who took it, who were the Muslims at the mosque. I didn't take it. I came with one colleague. He certainly didn't take it. So it was put on by them. And the more I look at it, the more I see, wow, yes, it was very intimidating. But funnily enough, I just didn't feel, I don't know, in the moment, you just concentrate on what's going on. I felt very intimidated. I felt very uncomfortable. There's no question about that. But for some reason, you said, if not, why not? I don't know why not. I just didn't get the sense that there was going to be any violence. I mean, there could have been. It could have turned nasty. And obviously being vulnerable would have been difficult to run away.
So one of the things that I noticed about it is that there were plenty of other people around him who didn't get involved, but they also didn't stop him or seem to complain that he was behaving this way to somebody standing for office who'd been invited by the mosque. Nobody seemed to stop him. So I suppose it all could have turned on whether or not other people had joined in. But the other thing I
think you're right. I think one or two, if you listen very carefully, one or two did say to him, leave it,
Okay.
But you're right in general. I mean, I'm not going to make a comment on that. You're right, they could have done more. But if you listen in the clip, he turns on the imam and the president and he says to them, why have you invited these people? I think he said something like that. Take them to your house, don't bring them to the house of Allah. So he actually turned on the imam and the president, and in a funny way I felt sorry for them because they'd invited me in good faith. The president, Dr. Habibullah, is involved in interfaith work. He did warn me there might be one or two who would take exception to my presence. So I was aware of that. Obviously, I know what's going on in the world, but I didn't expect that. Maybe I should have done.
Well, I wonder also if you would agree with me that on watching it back, you seem to have been more alarmed than when you were there in the moment. And in a way, the fact that the man who abused you is the man who posted the video rather points to the fact that maybe you actually weren't his only intended victim. His intended victims are ordinary Jewish people who would watch that and be as alarmed as you were watching it back. I think people are, at the moment especially, very afraid of tensions between Muslims and Jews, especially those who seem to be hot-headed, verging potentially on violence, though, as you said, there was no violence in that moment. It's important to note. Do you think perhaps the intention of that video was to scare people who weren't even there but who were watching it at home, and that it going viral actually did that to some extent?
You could be absolutely right. Obviously, I can't be sure either way, but you could be right. I think also he probably posted it to big himself up and say, to his own supporters, look what I did to this Jew, this rabbi at the mosque. I know I've got to be very careful what I say, simply because the police are looking into it. I believe they have identified the individual, and I can't say what they're going to do about it, but I've got to be very careful commenting on what is now a live police investigation. But you could well be right.
Now, I did see, for example, that 5 Pillars posted it, and there seemed to be, some people said, an element of bragging in their comment that they'd sort of sent you running. Do things like that worry you as somebody that's been involved in interfaith work and in relations between the Jewish and Muslim and other communities, especially in your region?
Yeah, it does worry me. I mean, that's what I said, that he's doing it to brag to his supporters. I have to tell you, I've had phone calls from Muslim friends, politicians, one MP, a couple of councillors, who absolutely denounced the behaviour of this individual. One Muslim politician said to me he would like the individual banned from the mosque permanently. I said that's a matter for the mosque rather than myself, but as I said, it is now subject to police investigation. Originally, to be honest, I hadn't wanted the police to be involved because I didn't want to exacerbate the relations between the local Jewish and Muslim community, but I was persuaded by the CST and others, and eventually by the police themselves, to sort of make a full report in the interest of, the safety of the local population. But I think you may well have a point, yeah. But when you're in the moment, you often don't, think too hard. But yeah, I am in a way proud of the way I reacted. I reacted with calmness and, dignity, which a lot of people have said to me, and I'm quite pleased about that I managed to do that.
I think you very much did react with calmness and dignity to a surprising level, actually, especially considering that, there has been a history in recent years of violent attacks on MPs. You're standing to be an MP. Joe Cox, of course, was murdered. David Amos from the Conservative Party was murdered specifically because of his support for Israel. And there were threats against others. Mike Freer stood down in Golders Green and Finchley, I believe, because his office was apparently attacked by arsonists, and they think that was connected to his support for Israel, and he was a good friend of the Jewish community in his constituency. So it's no small thing when people do target MPs or prospective MPs in that way. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree. You don't always think these things through at the time, because you're just concentrating on what's happening. But again, in hindsight, you are right. There's other MPs as well. Christian Wakeford, I have to say, who's my main opponent here, who was the sitting MP. He was the Labour MP, was originally elected Conservative, defected to Labour. He's had his office attacked. I don't think there was any physical attack on him, but I think his office has been daubed. A good friend of mine, Robert Largan, who was the MP in High Peak, standing against the Conservative candidate, had his office daubed this very week. You may know about that. He's posted it on social media, and I've no doubt at all, although he's not Jewish, that will be related to... In fact, he was born and bred in Bury South. He was brought up with the Jewish community, and he's certainly a supporter of Israel. So, yeah, I'm sure that was related to that as well.
And doesn't any of this fill you with fear as somebody that wants to be an MP?
It doesn't fill me with fear. It fills me with caution, with a certain amount of nervousness. But I'm not the sort of person that sort of, you can see even with my disability, I don't allow it to sort of, keep me at home all day long. And I don't allow my fears to do that either. I don't shirk a challenge. You've got to be sensible. The police have offered me extra protection. I can't discuss that in public, what they're doing. There is something called Upbridger at the moment where politicians and election candidates are being given extra security. So yes, it does, it is at the back of your mind. Of course it is. And if I do become successful tomorrow night, and I do become elected as an MP, it's a bit of a long shot at the moment with the state of the polls, but it could be. And if that happens, I think I'll probably be even more prominent, and I'll probably be the subject of even more security detail, but I'm not going to hide away because of that.
I've seen that the mosque did reach out and make quite a fulsome statement about the what happened to you, about this assault, effectively this verbal assault. And one part of that caught my eye. Just to say, it is good that they did so and that they condemned what happened. But then there was a comment in it that said the Muslim community itself suffered some incidents during this year's Purim celebrations at the hands of some youth activists. None of these incidents are reflective of most of the people in the area. Do you know what that refers to? Are they effectively saying that Jews have done similar things to Muslims?
That was actually a grave misunderstanding. What happened on Purim was young Jewish people in the very religious areas, both here and in London, tend to go around on floats and have music blaring. And they happen to go past the mosque, which is right at the heart of the Jewish area. The mosque originally thought that it was meant to be against the mosque, just sort of play loud music relatively late at night. Nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, it probably was unfortunate that they did it past the mosque, but there was certainly no malice intended, and in fact most of those children probably didn't even realise the mosque was there. So that was a misunderstanding, and quite frankly, they shouldn't really have brought that up, because I'd understood.
Yeah, that does seem quite disingenuous, considering that must have been clarified by now, to try and draw some sort of equivalence between Jewish people celebrating Purim, which is a raucous festival, and somebody outwardly attacking you on camera and publishing it for the purposes of intimidating the Jewish community. But that is my comment, not yours. So let me move on just finally before we tie up to ask you, what is your view at the moment on the state of Jewish life in the United Kingdom, with the massive rise in anti-Semitism, the massive use of the situation in Gaza and Israel to effectively attack the Jewish state and attack Jewish people in the UK? What's your vision for the future for Jews here?
Well, it is worrying. Whoever forms the next government, I think, really needs to get a grip. I mean, I'm proud of the way the Conservative government reacted. It gave more money for the protection of Jewish synagogues and organisations. To be fair, they gave to the Muslim community as well because of Islamophobic attacks. There's extra police presence, but I think the police, particularly in London, if I may say so, need to get a grip on some of the marchers. My wife was in town the other week, and she was on a tram here in Manchester, and she saw Palestinian protest, and even though they didn't get on the tram, she found it very intimidating. So, and I know some people are thinking of making Aliyah, and so on. I think once things settle down in Israel and Gaza, as often happens, things will quieten down a bit. And until the next time, if there is a next time. So I would certainly urge people not to panic.
But I think that what I've heard from so many Jewish people is that, if it calms down, as you put it, sorry to interrupt, just to say that, if it does calm down, I hear that a fair bit, and it's reasonable position. But doesn't it show that lying not that far underneath the surface is a degree of animosity and hatred towards Jewish people from some? Which doesn't take very much to bubble to the top. So during moments like this, what we're seeing is maybe, let's say, the truth.
Yeah, as somebody who's involved in interfaith relations, a lot of people, particularly those who are not Muslims, Christians and so on, are quite supportive, I can tell you that. And a lot of the Muslim community, whatever their views on what's going on in Israel, and obviously most have a particular view, would support Palestine, if not Hamas as such. But most of them don't go to the levels of this chap or, even worse. So you're right, it is worrying, but hopefully the police and the future government will get a grip, and we'll be able to live our lives relatively peacefully.
Rabbi Arnie Saunders, thank you for telling me how it was from your perspective, and thank you for the work that you do. I wish you to keep safe. I'm delighted that you are safe in this instance, and hope you'll take care of yourself. And again, thank you very much for telling me the story from your side.
Thank you.